Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Tales of the LGBTQ. My name is Douglas Parsons. For the life of this podcast so far, I've been interviewing people that I do not have a real life day to day connection with. These people have been strangers to me, and it's been fantastic learning more about their stories and just initially getting to know people. Today's very different, though, because the topic and the people who we are talking to today are very close to me now. Pride Corner on Whyte began as a 3 or 4 week protest for the month of Pride, but it's taken a life of its own. And it's become part of my week that I look forward to. It's what stabilizes me, it's what keeps me going, and it's fantastic. Today, I'm going to talk to the organizers of Pride Corner on Whyte and discuss what this means to them, the good, the bad, the ugly, and just what keeps it going. We are five organizers strong. What is it that makes this work so well? And so we're going to talk to Claire and Erica first, and then bring in Brian and Erynn later on for everyone to share their stories. And it's these stories that keep us going. Before I bring Claire and Erica to the screen, though, there are a few things I just want to make mention of. Tales of the LGBTQ is a weekly video and audio podcast that showcases the tremendous, remarkable people within our rainbow community. By listening to our stories, we gain insight, understanding, and connection. So every week we connect and be introduced to these people and become smitten. If this is your first time listening to Tales of the LGBTQ, please check our previous episodes. I'm confident you will find more stories that resonate with you. Please hit subscribe here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Leave a comment. Those comments help us with the algorithm, and that helps us so much in making sure that your stories get heard. I'm based here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and it's important for me to say that I would like to acknowledge that I am on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional meeting grounds, gathering place, and traveling route for the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux. I acknowledge all of the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries, especially the knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who came before. I am opening myself to listen, learn, and understand, and I hope you join me on this journey as well. Pride Corner on Whyte began earlier this year. For me, it all began in episode 3 that you can go back and listen to with Claire Pearen. Approximately 20 minutes into the interview, Claire said something that resonated with me. I've been a loudmouth for a while, but I needed to put my loudmouth to action. And this is what I've done, is adding my voice. 8 unhoused LGBTQ youths committed suicide in the 10 months previous to us starting Pride Corner on Whyte. Whyte Avenue is spelled Whyte, based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and it's a home. It's the main avenue in Edmonton, and this is a place where many of the homeless shelters are. 40 to 45% of unhoused youths in Edmonton are part of our rainbow community. 8 unhoused youths committed suicide. We have to stand up. We did stand up to street preachers, and we wanted to make sure that the unhoused youths knew that there was a community for them to enter. And this is where our organizing team has stepped up, and we're building something. So enough of me talking at the moment. Let's bring to our screen 2 of the organizers who were here right from the beginning. This would be Claire and Erica. Claire, you are now a veteran of Tales of the LGBTQ+. You were episode number 3. And during that interview, I told you that this podcast was started because I wanted to know more about you, because the last couple of years have been this transformation of this go-getter, this good person, but then you've become Claire and you've become this force. And I wanted to know more about it. So to start off with, Claire, how has Pride Cornrown Whyte changed your life?
Oh, that is a great question. Goodness. In so many ways, I look forward to Pride Corner every week. There are so many beautiful moments that happen out there, and it has truly changed my life so positively. I come home every Friday and I sit in silence and I think about the night and process the afternoon and how things went with the kids and the dancing and the cha-cha slide and all these little fun moments that happen throughout the day. And there are just so many beautiful moments that happen out there. Chatting with Erica last night, it was just talking about how many I wish that there was something like this when I was a kid. I often hear adults stop by the corner and say that as well. I'm glad there's a place for kids to come out and be themselves and find themselves. And especially in a pandemic, I can't even imagine, trying to discover yourself or come out of the closet in this time and trying to meet people. So,
Yeah, there was a couple of weeks ago, there was one youth who said that they came out just before the pandemic started. And then with school going back online and being stuck at home, they felt like all of a sudden they came out and then whoosh back into a closet. And then now with Pride Corner and White, they were able to come out and go, oh, oh, I can actually release my energy and myself, and it's huge. You know, uh, so Claire, you know everything about when it comes to this, and I've known you for a while. Acquaintances, always friendly with each other for years. You were always out and about, and we'd say hi. Erica, you just kind of appeared in my world with this. And so, what is your connection with Claire originally? How did you two meet?
So Claire and I met through some other activism work in Edmonton earlier. When was that, Claire? February?
February, yeah, January, February.
Yeah. And we just started chatting. I immediately was drawn to her, as many people are, and found out she was protesting the preachers and just was like, hell yeah. I want to do that too, and just showed up one Friday in March and started going ever since.
Yeah. Well, we should go back a little bit and talk about why Whyte Avenue, why the corner of 104th Street and Whyte Avenue, why are we protesting the street preachers? And so I open that question to both of you, whoever wants to answer that.
Claire, you know Dill best.
Oh, well, I mean, we all have answers to that. I think every person walking down the street of Whyte Avenue has an answer to that. If you've ever been in the area, you know that straight or not, you're going to be berated. But if you're not straight, it's going to be even worse. The homophobia and the things that come out of their mouths are terrible and awful and inhumane and should be said to nobody. And it's really difficult to get behind that they call themselves such good Christians and they believe that what they're doing is good, but what they're actually doing is killing people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like, I've lived in Edmonton my whole life. Dale has been out on that street corner for 11 years now. And I remember walking by him down Whyte Avenue with my parents. My parents would be like, don't listen to him or whatever. And and just a very negative image of him from being very young. And then as I got older and was walking down Whyte Avenue with my partner at the time, he singled us out and said, we're going to hell and you're living in sin. And, it's one thing for a person who is like, I just laughed it off, whatever, this man saying these things to me, but that's detrimental. It's incredibly harmful for some people to hear something like that, understandably so. And yeah, it's just unacceptable. It has no place in our society anymore. Values and, if you can call them that Dale and so many of the street preachers possess, it's just, yeah, it's unacceptable. And there has to be pushback. And that's exactly what this is. And it is a testament to how successful we've been that they don't come. Dale changes his schedule around when we're going to be there now. So we're doing the thing.
Dale is this interesting, and I put interesting in quotation marks when I say that. He's this interesting being because he's a cis white male. He stands on top of a soapbox, and people don't generally listen. But the problem is that when you have these kids, these youths who have been kicked out of their homes, and now they're living on the streets in that area because of the shelters being there, they do hear those words. And it not only were they kicked out at home, likely due to religious viewpoints, but then they hear this person on the streets as well. And it's just this extra punch in the gut. And when you're impressionable, it has to hurt so much.
Totally.
When you think about the 40 to 45% of unhoused people that do identify as under the rainbow, and that's a stat. That's a North American stat.
Yeah, it is.
So I mean, when you're looking at that number, that's a huge number, and you have to wonder why people are ending up on the streets and why, think about how unhoused queer folks have got there to begin with. Coming out of the closet isn't easy for everybody. There was a youth that took a photo for the group photo the other night and said, I cannot be in the photo. I am not out to my family, and they are watching this. They know that I'm here and they don't want me to be here. Like, that's heartbreaking. When you don't have your family support, when you don't have someone that backs you and believes in who you are and telling you that you're wrong, and you're impressionable and you're young, you believe it. And when you're so broken down and your family has disowned you and you're out on the streets and you've been up all night and trying to stay alive, and kids are taking their own lives, and I think people need to see the bigger picture. I think sometimes people walking by are well, how is this a direct correlation? There is absolutely a direct correlation. And if you look at the bigger picture and you think about how they got there to begin with, and the actual effect that the negative impact that he has on folks, I think if you were to do like a general consensus in Edmonton, like, do you like Dale on Whyte Avenue? Would you prefer that he get off his soapbox or not? Like, I mean, when have people been able to just enjoy themselves,
Yeah.
let alone the damage that he's doing?
Yeah. And this is a major intersection in Edmonton that I want everyone to know about. It's probably the most important intersection because it leads you down the main shopping areas. It leads you to downtown. It leads you to the south side going towards Calgary. This is not just a small little street in the middle of nowhere. This is high visibility. And Dale has been there for a long time, plus others.
Plus others.
Plus others who are part of a church or churches. Although when having conversation with some of them, they'll say that they're not part of a church, and that's part of them not taking responsibility, especially when it comes to the Indigenous children who were found. In those conversations, they said, we're not a religion, so we don't have to say anything about it. And that gets frustrating. What are some of your experiences with protesting the street preachers? Are there anything that kind of stands out to both of you?
Oh, goodness. I think so early on, like some of my earliest memories of showing up and protesting the street preachers, it was volatile. Like they were not used to us being there. They were really mad that people were pushing back against them because, like we've all said, they've been out there for years with, the occasional passerby probably being like, you shouldn't be here or whatever. But for multiple people with speakers and signs, like they were mad. So yeah, we've had some pretty, I don't know. We've had some moments with some of the street preachers, some more than others for sure, who do not appreciate our presence. But in the same breath, there have been some really beautiful moments with some of them. And like Claire and I were talking about last night, like I remember a few faces where, we would go out of our way and have long conversations with them about how what they are doing is traumatizing people. Whether they believe it or not, whether they themselves understand religious trauma on a deep level or not, it is triggering. It is traumatizing to people. And it's not the place. You have institutions specifically for you all to go and discuss these things. It is not right to come into community and do this. And they never come back. Like, I've never seen those faces again, whether they registered that and took it to heart and realized it. I hope they went home and thought about it. But yeah, all sorts of varying interactions with them, from great to not so great.
Not so great. Claire, same question.
I think the body camera has definitely helped. It's sure interesting watching the change of tune when they know that they're being recorded. I think one instance that really stands out for me is kind of similar to what Erica was talking about, with them just realizing that we're not going away. They have been coming out for a long time, and they have felt like they have owned these streets. Whyte Avenue is their church. That's what they say. So, I can't remember when it was, but it was a lot of youth that had just started coming out. I don't know where they had come from. What's that?
I think I know which one you're talking about. When we did the Pride Parade. Yeah,
that's the one. And I mean, we have rolling protests often, right? I mean, there's times that the preachers will pick up their speaker, and that's why we got the wagon. That's why we got our speaker, and away we go, and we do it safely every time. The one time, one particular preacher, he has been quite aggressive over a period of time. He's a big man, over 6 feet tall, and quite an intimidating person. I've had personal altercations with him myself, but what stood out for me was these youth who were marching down these streets, and you could just see how proud they were and how strong they felt, holding these signs and saying, no, you are not going to do this anymore. Yeah. And the look, I remember the look in his face when he realized, we're not going away.
Yeah.
We're here to stay. And he felt so overwhelmed. He was looking around, and there was another time he got into it with a youth, and he's been getting into it with this particular youth for weeks, not getting into it, but having these discussions. I should say conversations. Yes. He tries to instigate these conversations and get them talking. And this kid I'm sure is also over 6 feet tall. And the preacher did not realize that he was. And I remember the kid after 3 or 4 weeks of going at it with him and saying, "You know, I'm 16, right?" He said, "Who's 16? Me." He was shocked, like these conversations that he's having with these kids are, these kids are not stupid. They're intellectual, smart human beings. They know what they're talking about.
Mhm.
And these preachers are surprised that they're getting this not lashback, but people are not saying that we're allowing this anymore.
Yeah.
And
we can use the kid's name because he's given permission. So it's James. James is going to be a future leader. Well, he already is a leader within the community already. He's a remarkable person. And I know he's going to listen to this, so don't let it get to your head, okay, James? But just to add to what you were talking about, Claire, this street preacher that we've been talking about right from the beginning was violent. I've witnessed him pushing you into the streets with the cars moving by. Like it was not like when Erica says it was violence at the beginning. We weren't prepared for that. It was like, what the heck is going on here? It felt like a wrestling ring. The next thing I see is Claire there, and next thing I see her, it's like an Irish whip into the ring post. If I use wrestling terms, when Claire's being thrown out into the street. It was remarkable to see and just stunning. But also at the same time, too, it helped fortify us because we're like, whoa, there's something here and we've got to continue. So how did it start for us? It just seems like we've been doing this for years now, but it was only earlier in the year. So Claire, you've been out protesting these street preachers for years now yourself. I know that after listening to your interview, episode 3, if people want to go back in and check out that episode, you've been doing this for years and then we've decided to join you. How did it feel with strength in numbers that, people started showing up and supporting you and supporting this initiative?
I cannot tell you how important strength in numbers are. Lesson learned. I'm a very independent, stubborn woman. I like to do things on my own. I do not like to ask for help.
What? This is shocking news. Never.
I'm still working on it. But I don't know, where was I going with that? I don't know.
Well, we're talking about, the strength in numbers, and then all of a sudden people showed up.
It was wonderful because, it was me against 5 preachers for a little while. And it was really nice to see people start showing up. And I remember the first person asked her, and they showed up with a sign, 3 words, words you won't miss when you're driving by. And they were just such a wonderful soul, and they kept showing up, and other people started showing up too. Like, it wasn't like they were just walking by. They wanted to come and protest as well. And let me tell you how awesome strength in numbers is. It's wonderful. We couldn't do this without numbers. We wouldn't be able to have a home base and be able to do a rolling protest and, set up on 4 corners and, all those things. I might need to let my dog out.
It's all good. Let's introduce the dog here because we've seen the dog as well as heard the dog. So introduce your dog for us.
She's deaf. This is Sophia.
Eventually we'll see Sophia. There we go. Live on Tales of the LGBTQ plus. Please welcome Sophia.
I'm gonna go let her out. Sorry.
Sure, perfect. So Erica, we met at that time at the beginning, and we're kind of like, okay, there's something here. We need to do something. So why the heck did we do this? Why did we get together to do this? I don't remember anymore. It just seems like we've been doing this for ages. So,
It does. We're looking at pictures from last night and we're like, was that only like August? Yeah.
Yeah. We were going to do this for the month of June for Pride, and then it just has continued and taken a life of its own. So why did you become part of this, and why has it continued?
Yeah, so I think that it was a little like people were really starting to gather, I think a little bit before June, like coming consistently. And Pride Corner was, or Pride Month was right around the corner, so we were like, oh, we should kind of capitalize on this and get the word out more about it, because of course that is kind of a heightened time in the year when those LGBTQ plus issues, whatever you want to say, are more at the forefront. But just like Edmontonians, I find are mad about it, are mad about the preachers. We're all sick of them. We don't want to hear about them. And more people just started coming, and I would show up on a Friday at like 5:00, and I'm like, who are these 30 people? And it was amazing. And the youth, like, oh my gosh, they were just coming in droves. And I don't think that was really anything any of us super anticipated, was all of the youth. But it's so powerful to see and invigorating, and they're the next generation of frontline activists, and it's amazing. But yeah, I think we just realized that we needed to make like a concerted effort to be more effective. And that's when we made the Facebook group, and people started applying, like, wanting to join in the hundreds. And it sort of took on a life of its own, from people upset over this fact, but also people realizing that I have a voice, and this is a place where I can safely share my voice. And yeah, the need was there. And so we were like, well, let's give the people what they want.
Yeah, and it's taken a life of its own, because no Friday is exactly the same as the other. Everything is different, so you have to be flexible and you have to be waiting for it. Sometimes it just ends up being a dance party. We've got our music, we've got our set lists. Yes, I'm partial. It's the best music on Whyte Avenue, and people come by just to dance because it's better than the music that they find in the bars. I'm partial to it. And sometimes it's just that. It's just community coming together and spending time with each other. We laugh sometimes because we have so many youths. We do call it a teenage nightclub at times, because we're like, where are all these kids from? And they keep multiplying, because all of these queer youths are hearing about it and they're coming and meeting each other, and it's just fantastic. And the best sound for me is those first few minutes around 4:30, when the kids come together and they haven't seen each other for a week, and they hit that high pitched decibel when they're so excited to see each other, and they're like, ee! And they start running from place to place. It's
I thought you were going to say your favorite noise was the exorcism song.
Exorcism.
Yes. Devil Town by Cave Town, which I actually listened by itself, and there's no screaming in that song. It's just a really well-written song. It's really deep, but every
All
Friday,
the youth know the words, though.
I know the words now. But every Friday the kids request that, and they start screaming out the sounds, and we call it the exorcism song, and it worked because last week the water main broke. So I think it's because of weeks and weeks of them doing this exorcism song that caused that water main to break. But yeah, and then we have the protests, and people are out there to protest. And so it is weird the nights when the preachers don't come out, because we're there to protest, and it's just different all the time. Best moments. What have been the best moments so far with Pride Corner on Whyte?
I think we're so Canadian. I think for me, it's the friendships, the relationships that are being built there. We have seen like actual relationships form out there and beautiful couples be made, and platonic friendships and relationships that are just beautiful and supportive and encouraging. Every week, these youth are introducing themselves to each other and making new friends. And they're remembering how it feels to be the first person on Pride, or their first time on Pride Corner, and they're supportive and encouraging to those other people. And I think it's the relationships for me.
I think, and this was a little bit earlier on, but this was when I knew we were on the right track and doing what needs to be done, when the first person crossed the street while we were all out there, and this is when the preacher had more of a presence the entire time we were there. But this person came up and he looked directly in my eyes and said, "Thank you for making me feel safer on this corner." And yeah, that was a big moment, because I was like, that's exactly what we want. That's exactly why we do this.
I agree with what both of you said. The friendships, the connections, and I look at the unhoused kids who've become part of our community, and a couple of them are now housed again, but for a few months they were not. And every Friday was the time where they could come and be safe and get water and get food and grab those connections. And with our one who continually comes, community, and knowing that they have a voice. And it's interesting as we watch them gain their voice, it's just fantastic. One of my favorite moments is an adult who uses they, them as pronouns. And the first time we could see them across the street and at a bus stop, and we knew that there was interest in them wanting to come over, but they could not. Stress, anxiety, what have you. And then slowly but surely, this person over the weeks did arrive, and now they're integral, even though we all acknowledge that we ourselves have stress and anxiety, they're now actively protesting against the street preachers who do come. And it's just this transformation of this person. Oh, and that's just that support and being there as part of a group. And it's just remarkable.
You're right, Doug. That confidence that you're talking about, we have seen in many folks that have come out and that keep showing up. And it is really one of the most enjoyable things to experience and witness. This person has just lit up the corner, and seeing them march down the street the other day holding that sign was just so empowering.
Yeah, and doing it by themselves too. We not even realizing there was a preacher there, and they grabbed the sign and went and protested it themselves.
This was just, by the way, we don't necessarily let youth just wander off and protest street preachers on their own, FYI.
Yeah, an adult, and just remarkable just to see that. And there was that moment when you kind of look at each other and go, "What?" Yeah, and we can swear on this one. I was like, "What the fuck? This is just brilliant."
Yeah.
So we there's so many good moments there, but what are some of those moments that stand out to you for the negative or the disappointing, or just things that just stick in your mind just for, I can't believe that happened?
I have one 3-letter word that comes to mind.
Oh, what 3-letter word would that be?
His name is Dan. And oh goodness heck. I thought we had our hands full with the preachers we were dealing with for the first portion until, however long ago, 4 months ago when he started showing up.
Mhm.
And now that's now like, the street preachers from before are nothing.
100%.
It's just,
It feels like minuscule what we were dealing with before as to what we are dealing with now with this new set of preachers that have come around, and safety is of utmost importance. And we have eyes out all over the place just because we've learned that some of these preachers are not out to preach.
no.
They actually do not have Christianity in their heart whatsoever.
Yeah. Dan is a wannabe cult leader. And I hate saying his name out loud, but you have to name to mention. He brings with him a camera person who is a known white supremacist within the province. So this is what we're dealing with. They don't show up every week, every second or third week, but when they do, it's exhausting. It's frustrating. Because as you mentioned, Claire, there's no preaching involved. That they're blaming and they're provoking and wanting confrontation because that feeds their cult-like status as they try to create whatever it is that he's trying to do.
And their ego, like the ego of some of these people. And as someone who was Christian for a very long time, undoubtedly the most dangerous Christians are the ones that say, I love you.
Yeah.
I love you so much. I am for you. I support you, because there is such a staunch, they think that they are so progressive within their own religious indoctrination that they don't listen to nothing, to nobody. They will not take ownership for any of their actions. They think they're there. They've arrived at all of these conclusions that we could ever, they love us. And in that deep love, they want to destroy us. And that's the most dangerous. I'd rather have a Dale where you know what you're getting, who isn't trying to, be around the bush and try and make you feel this false sense of security in this weird, twisted, backwards way. Like, those are the most disheartening moments, is when you're just bashing your head against a wall, trying to get through to these people, trying to explain in kindergarten layman's terms how deeply traumatizing what they are doing is, and they don't care. Yeah. There is not a care. They don't care about those suicide rates. They don't care about traumatizing people, and that is dangerous. That is very dangerous. So those are easily, I'm sure for all of us across the board, the worst moments.
You never know what's coming. And so to this point and all that, we've handled it as well as we can. We do the best we can. We shield the youth who come out as much as possible. And I guess the one thing I'll put out here to people who are going to be listening is, at the beginning, we did have a lot of adults who came to Pride Corner, adults who came with their kids. And now we don't have those adults as much, but we do have their kids, which is fantastic. But it does make protesting difficult when you have a smaller group of adults, because we need to be in multiple places. Plus, we also need to take care of the kids who aren't there to be activists. They're there to see their friends. They're there to dance. So I would love for adults and parents to come back out and not just go, hey, Claire, Erica, Brian, Erynn, you're doing a great job. Fantastic. Please make sure my kid gets home in 4 hours. It's okay, but we need those parents and adults out here as well.
At like 5 or 6 kids, it wasn't so bad. But at like 35, 40 kids, like I'm like, where's the roll call?
There was that moment we were on live on for you, Claire, and it was like, it's 11 o'clock. I don't know who these kids are, but they're with us. Come get your kids, you know? And at the end of the night, we ended up going later all the time because we needed to make sure that they had rides home, and we needed to make sure that they had safe places to go. And sometimes it took a long time to make sure that they had places. So we ended up going from 3 to 4 hours to 6 to 8 hours, just ensuring that these kids got home.
And that's something that like organizers do, you know. Erynn is one of the last people on set every night, you know. There's not one kid that we leave there. We're never packing up the wagons and saying, see you later.
Yeah.
You know, each and every person, each and every child has gotten home or has gotten to a safe location or has been
they've made it home,
taken care of as best as possible.
Yeah. Final question for both of you before we bring Brian and Erynn into this. And I'll start with you, Erica, first. The same question will go to you afterwards, Claire. What does Pride Corner on Whyte mean to you today?
Oh dear. Oh my goodness. It's one of those things that I'm gonna look back on when I'm old and know that this is one of the most meaningful things that I could be doing with my time and my energy. It means a lot because not only is it a big intersection of frontline activism that I love, but it is creating a future that I want to see. No, I'm not going to.
If you do, bring a close up because we love to see the solitary tears on our screen.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's building the future that I want to see. So it is incredibly meaningful, and helps me find myself. Yeah. And I see other people blossoming, and that is just the most beautiful thing that we could ever want or see, I think, in today's society. So very important.
Yeah, I think for me, it's similar to what Erica said. You know, this world is what we're leaving for the kids in the future. And, you know, even though I'm not having any myself, these kids out on these streets are going to be the ones that are going to be here and our future leaders. And if we're not leading the way in some sort of positive manner and guiding that, you know, what are we doing? Yeah. So I'm really glad that it's turned into what it has.
Yeah. It depends upon the week and what it means to me, you know, but it is everything. It's the end of the week. But I look forward to spending that time out there and, you know, when people smile when we see each other and we say goodbye. And, you know, after having this pandemic for the last year and a half and being away from people, just knowing that there's these incredible people out there and they're just learning and being able to help shape that, it's incredible. But I'll be completely selfish with this answer. I needed this. I needed this for myself, and I'm at a more advanced age compared to other people who show up there. I'm 46 and I'm comfortable with my life. You know, I've spent my life finding a chosen family, but in that, I did go into the stereotypes, and that most of my time over the last 5 years were spent with guys, with male friends, a bear cub community. And this is after spending my life mostly surrounded by strong women, but I did go into the stereotype of being surrounded by men and learning from them. And this has just allowed me to open up and go, oh, I've been in a silo for so long and there's more. And it just is everything. It just Good Lord.
Honestly, Doug, it warms my heart to see you out there with those kids. Like, you just light up. You really do. You just lead the way in this just beautiful. Everyone looks up to you. Everyone does out there. And you are such a natural leader, and you make it so fun, and you make it educational. And that might be the teacher in you, but
Yeah,
you do a great job.
It's a teacher, and thank you. I don't necessarily believe everything you said. I understand it, but just music wise, you have to teach the kids. Like in the 80s, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Bronski Beats, those were huge songs because those were out songs led by queer singers. And so you throw that into the music list. And then 2 weeks later, one of the kids will come up and say, "What's that song when they tell us to relax? Can you play that?" And I'm like, yes, we can. And then they come up and say, "Hey, can you play George Michael's Careless Whisper?" And I'm like, I'm all for the saxophone. So
I'm never going to give you up. That's a good one.
Right? Like, and there's the one kid who comes and asks for Earth, Wind, and Fire. Like, come on. Like, anywho, Claire, Erica, thank you for being here on this first part of Tales of the LGBTQ+. I'm going to bring Brian and Erynn onto the screen. So we'll have a quick kiki as we're like, yeah, hi, how are you? We just saw you 12 hours ago. And then we'll say goodbye for now for both of you, okay?
Okay.
Great.
So here's a thank you, Claire. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Next onto our screen are two organizers who came on after the original gangsters, the original OGs of Claire, Erica, myself. We should also mention here, we did have another organizer at the time, Svi, who was remarkable in so many ways and brought a viewpoint. They're no longer part of the team, which is just the way it happens, and that's fine. But definitely want to acknowledge everything that Svi did, because as a group of four, the originals, we all did well. And so major clink of the glass for sure. So Brian and Erynn have joined us. We have brought Brian Deacon to the screen, and now we're going to bring Erynn, our latest organizer, to the screen as well. Welcome, Brian and Erynn, to your official debuts here on Tales of the LGBTQ+.
Hello.
Hi, friends.
Hello. Happy to be here.
So Claire and Erica, before you go and everything, can you tell us just a little bit about Erynn and Brian and what they bring to the team?
Rants and raves. Like
Shoes.
Yeah, like Erynn is just an amazing human. She has been a part of Pride Corner for not a long time, but it feels like she has been for a very long time. She is a big part of making those kids feel safe, and there's a lot of trust that those kids have within Erynn, which is really big. And Erynn has a big part in this community, as well as has a huge heart for the unhoused community, is a team leader on Water Warriors. Rants and raves.
And we do laugh about the dads and the moms and all that. And yes, I've been called a dad, but I don't like that term, because in the bear community, I'm known kind of as a daddy, which brings a different interpretation. So when I hear dad, it's like, oh God, no, let's not do that. But I will say this here, Erynn is a true mom. She is that mothering figure that takes care of everybody, and that's thrilling. What about this Brian here?
Precious Brian. So he might seem like he's just this quiet, docile, friendly little. Get him in front of You Shall Not Be Named. Whole different Brian. Brian, yeah, like such a solid person. Someone always safe. Like for me personally, someone always safe that I know I can go to having a moment. Yeah, we're really grateful to have Brian, and all of the little logistical things that none of us are maybe that good at. Brian does it, and we super appreciate that.
And he's kind and he's loving and he's funny as heck, and he does not give himself near enough credit as he deserves.
Yeah, can we maybe not praise him as much, considering I've known him for over 10 years. I have to put him in his place a little bit.
Oh, he's lovely. We appreciate him.
Perfect. All right, Claire, Erica, we're going to say goodbye to you as we transfer over to Erynn and Brian.
Looking
Bye.
forward to watching. Much love.
Love you.
Bye.
So we've now transferred over to have two of our more recent organizers, Brian and Erynn. As I mentioned before, welcome for your debuts here on Tales of the LGBTQ+. How's it going for both of you today?
It's early.
Exactly. You know, Erica and Claire both said some things about both of you with this transfer over. Remarkable words, because they're the truth. And yes, Brian and I have known each other for a long time. We're really good friends. I give him a hard time. But Brian, this has been a fantastic experience doing this with you, because there's been this transformation in you. Just, yes, you're quiet and docile, but you're not out there. This is a passion for you, and I see it each and every week. And so, put into words, what does Pride Corner on Whyte mean for you, Brian?
Well, I was expecting this question. So for me, it's just I started helping because of you, because you were doing it. You said to come down once, and I figured I can do that. And then it means just seeing hope for the future, seeing that hatred doesn't belong in Edmonton or anywhere in the world, and that we belong.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been remarkable, and I can say this just, a right-hand person, a lot of our, the ebbs and flows and all that. It's myself, and then there's you. And many times I've had to do your speaking, in the past in many ways. And we say that jokingly and lovingly, but this is something completely different, because you're out there and you're speaking and you're doing those things, and you're not nudging me forward to do it. And so how has this explosion within you happened? Because this is something I did not expect, but good Lord, it's great.
I'm not entirely sure. I'm thinking probably from being locked up with COVID, like having quarantined like 4 times from work, not being able to be around people. Sorry. Cats.
You've got a cat.
Yeah. It just, I don't actually know, because it's weird for me. I'm not like this.
Yeah, and you are the first person, or one of the first people, to grab us one of the smaller speakers and go protest street preachers. Your go-to song is Lily Allen's
Fuck You.
Which it's like, gosh, Brian, shocking in itself. And then, so you came aboard in officially July, August. There was kind of that, okay, he's part of us. We're not getting rid of him. We're going to talk about the change.org here in a little bit. But Erynn, I'm bringing you in here too, because as was mentioned, it seems like you've been with us forever. But when we look back, it's not a long time, but you've just been there. So why is this important to you for being part of Pride Corner on Whyte?
For me, I found for a long time, I've been in the rave scene for years, from the 90s, and I've always had a soft spot in my heart. I am an ally myself, and I've always had a soft spot for the gay community and the struggles that they, face just trying to be themselves and be accepted through COVID. Obviously, Brian had spoke of the isolation and whatnot. My life changed dramatically, as many people's has. And so I sort of watched online, it organically happened, and sort of try to understand like the bystanders that walk by, where they're like, we don't really see why this is happening. Like both sides have the right to exist, but they don't really see what the preachers are saying because they sort of go by really fast and ignore them. So to be able to understand a little bit and watch on social media and see, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to make it down there. I'm going to make this a priority and I'm going to go. And so I just went one Friday. I had a blast, obviously. You know, I don't even really remember the first Friday that I went, if there was preachers or not. I think that there must have been maybe, but you know, I said, I'm going to go back, and probably by about week 3 or week 4, you know, Claire came and scooped me right up, and it wasn't even really a discussion. I mean, I kind of got bombarded. Everybody just shored around me and said, you know, we really need some adults, and I think that you fit the bill, and, you know, we really enjoy your presence here, and the kids love you, and like, can you help us?
Yeah, absolutely. And we didn't really realize that we needed that type of help. We didn't realize that we needed you until you appeared. And then we're like, when you naturally helped and you naturally stood in the way and to protect and to help. And just by observing, we're like, oh, who is this force of nature that's just entered into the area? So for both you and Brian, so Brian and Erynn, have you always been activists, or is this something that's brand new?
This is very new for me. I was trying to think, Claire and I went down to actually protest some stuff in Calgary recently that's been going on. And, you know, we didn't even turn on our radio. We talked for 6 hours, 3 hours there and 3 hours back. And, you know, I sort of thought of the first thing that I ever protested. And I think it would have been in 2001. And it was the Come Together rally for the rave scene at the time. And it was changing because a lot of youth, I mean, my youth was different. We were allowed to have clubs when we were underage. There were places for kids to go and to, you know, have a community feel and grow together. And then, you know, it sort of transpired then when we had COVID and obviously George Floyd, and you start to see more issues. I think one of the positives of COVID is that we were able to actually look what was happening in the world and sort of say, I'm going to stand up to this. This is not right. Right. So then I went to some Black Lives Matters. I went through some car convoys. You know, again, I'm very COVID friendly. Everybody on the corner knows this. I wear my mask. I spray out sanitizer. You know, I try to keep everybody safe and aware of we're still in a pandemic. And so to be able to come out and see those people and help them, I think has been very valuable to me.
Yeah, there was something in that yeast in the bread that everybody was making at the beginning of the pandemic, because
it was all those starters, right?
Yeah, there was something thrown in as an extra ingredient, because I was a loudmouth always, and always had my heart on my sleeve and tried my best, but I wouldn't have been an activist if it wasn't for the past year. Brian,
I think as you look at an activist, right? Like now that once you sort of get the taste for it, you want to do more, right? Like, again, Claire was talking about, you know, me being a team lead, and we're working with the unhoused, and then to even go down to Calgary to work with Pride Corner, to do all these things, you know, even with the women's clinic, we've been going out, you know, Erica and Claire really inspired me to be able to use my voice and use it to help other people understand the struggles that others go through.
Being an activist could be a full-time position, just because there's so much that needs to be done. And until you get into the trenches, you don't realize just what's falling through the cracks. Things that we take for granted, and we think, oh, yes, it's being done, but it's not. And I'm still waiting for that George Soros money to come in for all those activists who've been out there for the last 2 years. I would love some of that money for being activists. Hey, Brian, I know this answer as well, but what about yourself as an activist?
This is pretty new for me. I would do certain things like through work and all that for various jobs, but this is pretty new. It's been fun and terrifying.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because, you know, other than Claire and maybe a little bit with Erica, none of us understand what being an activist is until now. We're learning this as we go along. And so what brings you out week after week? What are those best moments that you've experienced so far?
Just seeing the people there supporting us when we talk about the petition later, that as well, that support brings me out knowing that people support us and that we belong.
For me, it's having conversations with some of the passerbyers, to be able to give them some insight. Everything happens really fast. I'm sure a lot of the people that may watch this podcast have seen, they're driving by. They're like, why are there all these rainbow people? What's happening? I don't understand. There's some pushback. They have signs in people's faces. Like, the preachers are just trying to exist and do what they want to do. But when you actually are able to, like, I had a conversation with a woman who does believe in God, and we sat on the side, across from Pride Corner, and talked about it for probably about 30 minutes. And then they were able to begin to listen to what these preachers were saying and how you can't have a conversation with them. Like, Erica referenced, it's like banging your head against a wall and they just want to say, well, I love you. I love you. I love you. Well, why do you hate me? Well, because I don't love you doesn't mean that I hate you, but there's no one way with them, right? So it becomes difficult. And to be able to see this woman begin to understand that all of us, we're not against God and religion. I mean, obviously religion has faced a lot of issues via residential schools and whatnot, but if you want to believe in God, that's not the problem, right? It's the problem that you're using God to advance hate. And that's where the issue lies. And that's what we stand up against.
It's homophobia wrapped up in Bible quotes. And it's hard. It's, I did not grow up in a religious family. I have faith in something. I do believe God that probably looks very much like Alanis Morissette, and I'm very good with that. And I don't say it jokingly. It's just God is a woman to me, and but I have faith, and there's aspects that I believe in and understand, and so it's a difficult process for sure, but it's important for us to be out there. Brian mentioned here that I asked him if he wanted to come out, and probably told him in my way to come out as well. And Brian, being a diligent friend, followed along. But then all of a sudden, Brian, you created a change.org for the corner to have it changed of its name to Pride Corner. And you started that. Before we go into the numbers of people who signed that change.org, why was that important for you to set up and do?
Well, just showing that because with being on Pride Corner, hearing people drive by, honk, and all that, just to get it on paper that people support this and people want this. People don't want the preachers spouting their hatred all over the place.
You started this. How many people have signed it, approximately?
Actually, I just looked. It was 10,511.
That's brilliant.
And that's also worldwide as well, because I've had people from the U.S., England, everywhere sign it. Yeah. Not just Edmonton or Alberta.
Yeah, and you're our Twitter person. So who are some of those personalities who have talked about Pride Corner on their Twitter sites as well as their other social medias?
Well, we have Janice Irwin, the wonderful MLGay, sorry. Michael Jan's newly elected city councilor for Edmonton. Mm-hmm. We've had Jan Arden has liked our tweets. We've had Katie Lang like our tweets. The first openly gay WHL player, Luke Prokop, like our tweets. Mm-hmm. And he retweeted it as well. Andrew Ferentz, former captain of the Oilers, that one hockey team that someone likes.
With McJesus, yeah. Brian is pointing towards this creepy mannequin that's behind him. That's his housemate.
Boo Flames!
Well, no, those are the Maple Leafs on him.
Yes, my bad.
Yes. So Brian has never actually.
It has a tutu.
For our visual watchers, you can see a mannequin from the Bay with a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey and a tutu. Welcome to the life of Brian. So this change.org, and then during this time, it became more, and this change.org was something that, online, you've got your personality that's displayed online all the time, and then it's coming to person. There's the good parts of it, of course, talking to people. what are some of the challenges that you've seen out there, or some things that stand out to you and you're like, how the heck did that happen?
He who should not be named. I'm not a violent person. I don't usually want to punch people in the face. He just brings that out. It's like I won't, because I'm not that type of person, but it's just like dealing with him is just, it's rough.
He's a wannabe cult leader.
Yeah.
He wants to invade the safe space. He wants to talk to the
youth. That's all he wants to do. He doesn't want to talk to any of us, just the youth.
He just wants to talk to youth. It's creepy. So I can understand with what you're saying with he who shall not be named, although we named him about 25 minutes ago earlier. But it's interesting. And then we'll never know with this, will there be another person like him? There were others who are part of his church who came out, but we have eliminated them from coming out just by discussion and conversation.
I miss Chloe.
Erynn was not around for Chloe. Chloe will be back one day, perhaps. But so will the Pride community who have receipts.
Claire was quite shocked, actually, when I first arrived, because she'd be like, oh, Dale this and Dale that. And I said, I don't even think I've met Dale. And she goes, you've never met him? I'm like, well, I just started. And then we'd, reference another one. And I'm like, which one? I'm learning now as I go. And I've been here for he who shall not be named. And, it's quite weird. We referenced earlier that he comes with a cameraman and he walks up and he knows what he's doing when he approaches the corner.
The white supremacist cameraman.
Yeah, the white supremacist.
Yes, with the white supremacist cameraman. And they come to literally antagonize, not us, not the adults, the youth. They will go directly to them, or even, and I will mention, I don't think this person will necessarily mind, but they went to Gary. And Gary is a member of the United Church and had a sign out, which Gary always does. He comes weekly, and Dan eyeballed him and went straight to him and started to and Gary is sweet as a butterfly. So docile, yeah. And they were nose to nose, just because Dan shows up to antagonize people. Yep. He wants that ego fed. So,
well, he also wants to catch on camera us doing something like antagonizing him to get someone to hit him.
Yeah.
So he can make us look bad.
Well, and I didn't talk about it with Claire there, but Claire is a subject of interest for these churchgoers, white supremacists, because she is an activist and she does her job extremely well. And so there's instances of doxing and attempts to make her look bad. And so I know our role is to protect, and that's one thing that Erynn, that you do so well. If I can't find Claire, I look for you, Erynn, and I know that Claire will be close by, so I'm able to find her at all times. So that's a really good thing. Just mentioning Dale a little bit. Dale, he is who he is, and he's problematic. Compared to all the other street preachers, I don't mind him as much. I've had conversations with him. I remember clearly one incident when a passerby got into an argument with Dale and threw him to the ground.
Threw Dale to the ground?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Dale's minions did nothing, but it was myself and Claire who ran over and helped him up. And Dale was not happy with that, and he yelled at us, those type of things. But then the very next week, he came and seeked me out and thanked me for helping him. And he recognized that we were there also to protect him, which is this weird interplay that takes place that, yes, we're there to protest Dale, but we're also there protecting him as well. And it's very strange. But
I think we're there as decent human beings, and we don't want to bring, injury or aggression or fighting to anybody, right? We are there to, make everybody feel safe, including Dale, the person that we are counter-protesting, right? Because, even last week there was a fellow and he was talking about, hey, well, if you don't love somebody, back to the I love you, I love you, I love you. But if you don't love somebody, like what if there's a blind man in the street? Are you not going to go grab him? I love him, so I'm going to save him because he's going to get hit by a car. And I said, well, I can do that because I'm a decent human being. Yeah. Doug can pick Dale up because he's a decent human being, right? Where are all of Dale's minions to help him? They're probably not decent human beings because they're over there trying to tell somebody to change their life for a different agenda.
Yeah. Well, in this case, they just stared at Dale on the ground and did nothing. And so that was like that. Are you not? Okay, yeah. I'm going to do this and I'm going to dust him off and make sure that he's okay. Dale was missing.
I mean, he's old and fragile. He might break a hip falling off that soapbox.
Yeah. And Dale was missing for 3 or 4 weeks. He says it wasn't due to COVID, but, his symptoms that he described to us are COVID symptoms, and he was extremely sick. And, when we were having that conversation, Claire was involved in that. It was all about, are you doing okay? We don't want you to die. We don't want you to be feeling ill. And just from that conversation, there was just that moment in Dale's eyes where that human came back. And I've seen that ever since.
Vulnerable.
Yeah, so vulnerable. And, he's adjusted his time so he's not around. I see it as somewhat respectful that when he does see us arrive on Fridays, he does pack up and leave. Partly that's because, he doesn't want to deal with what we bring, but also it's that look that he gives and going, you did me good. And so I'm going to take myself and leave. And so I have this weird connection with Dale that I don't understand. And it's hard to figure out. I don't like him, but I will respect him as a person and I'll protect him whenever possible. Yeah. So Brian, you've done this change.org. You're doing Twitter. You're out there being this force, trying not to get into fights and things like that, which, as you being such a strong person who has so much anger within you, I say that all with quotation marks because he doesn't. He's quite docile. How has Pride Corner changed you?
It's brought me out of my shell quite a bit, which is a good thing. Has let me know that I can also deal with my anger and not lash out at people.
Mm-hmm.
Just chase them down with speakers.
Speakers while playing Lily Allen's "Fuck You." Yes.
Yes, exactly. Or
now, don't pray the gay away.
Don't pray the gay away. And as we always do, whenever one of the preachers leaves, we play certain songs, and another one bites the dust. And going back to Dale always goes, "I'm leaving now. Are you going to play the song?" And then it's always a dun dun dun. So he understands. He's involved in it, and it's these players upon the stage. So I see it, Brian, and we joke with each other and kind of the older brother, younger brother dynamic that we have. I have to put you in your place at all
times.
Much older
brother.
And, yeah. Fuck you, Brian. Before doing this activism, the only charity I ever tried to do in my life was taking care of Brian. So, but it's changed in so many different ways, and I notice it, and it's just incredible. And it's changed the dynamic of our friendship, though, because it makes us more equal in many ways, and it's just fantastic. So yeah, you won't hear this a lot. You've been seeing it in Facebook chats and stuff like that, but I'll praise you publicly. I'm really proud of you. Really proud of you. And
don't make me cry, God damn it.
No, it's I've known you for a long time, and when misfits find each other, and misfits being myself as well, when we find each other, you got to hold on to each other, and at some point what we see in each other, it blossoms, and I do see it this past year, Brian. So, and in other words, that's the last time I will ever praise Brian Deacon.
But it will now forever be online.
At least it's on tape.
Yep.
It's on tape. Erynn, you've talked about joining Pride Corner, Water Warriors YAG. Have you noticed a change within yourself in the last 2 months itself? or is this something that's just opening up right now and you're still figuring things out?
I've always been somebody who's been quite self-aware and proud of who I am. I've always kind of, been a little different thread within the woven fabric of society. I think that COVID just kind of shut everything down for me. I know I keep referencing COVID, but it just kind of, and then you sort of take those times in your life to be like, what am I doing? Like, I'm a hairstylist by trade. I've been a hairstylist since I was, doing a shampoo girl at 12 years old. My life had been really consistent for like 30 years. Not a whole lot changed, right? So I'm just like, what am I doing? And, to be able to watch the youth on the corner and see them be able to blossom into, just really good people. They already are good people. And it sort of hurts my heart in one sense to see that sometimes maybe their parents struggle with them. I'm very close with one youth on the corner. We know this, and they were struggling a little bit with their family life. And they're just an amazing youth. So I just want to be like, your kid's so cool. Like, please just let them be themselves, and let them develop their own sense, because this is the future. We literally see the future. I mean, we had a little bit of an emergency on the corner yesterday, and there was, we've never talked about an emergency plan. We've never even gone through, all of us 5 organizers have never even really thought that we needed to have this sort of thing in place. And a woman on Whyte Avenue fell down and went unconscious, and the youth came over to me. I was able to go. Initially we thought it was a poisoning, which is in tune with what we do with water warriors. For people who don't know what a poisoning is, it's previously known as an overdose. So we were ready with naloxone kits. I was able to get her awake. We didn't have to use the naloxone kit. She was just unconscious. But the youth put their flags around me, and I was talking to this woman down on the street, and I said, the Rainbow Rescue Rangers are here, and we're here to take care of you. And she smiled, and she was just so happy. And it's one of the passerbyers that goes weekly, and I waved to her, and we try to be inclusive to everyone. Not try, we are inclusive to everybody, including the unhoused. And once I realized who this woman was, I said, oh my God, I see her weekly. What happened? And we were able to all get an ambulance called, get what we needed without even pre-planning this. These youth are very responsible, and they want to take care of each other, and we're just guides along their way to help them be better people and be the people that they are. So we're really proud of that.
It was an incredible moment. It could have been far, far worse. It was a good ending. But when this happened, of course, it shook a lot of people, because we did think it was a poisoning. It's time for you to back away, give space. People, listen, music shut down. People went into their groups. They were respectful of space. One of the youths phoned 911. There were youths that were helping me with traffic. When you saw that there last night, I was just stunned and amazed that, as you said, we had never planned for something like this before, but everybody fell into these natural roles, including the youths. And just by listening and for them just saying, okay, we need to back away now, just incredible. And for this person who passed out, and we think we know what could have happened, but it was the best place for them to
You couldn't have picked a better temporary corner, because we weren't actually at our regular corner. We were down a block. We've had a water main break, so we were actually in a different location. And yeah, they couldn't have picked a better corner to go down on, that's for sure.
Yeah, it perfect. It was meant to be, just absolutely meant to be. As we wrap up here today, this conversation, I wanted to make sure that we did a podcast just to share some experiences. And there's so much that we could say about Pride Corner. I go back to it. Every week is something different. You never know what to expect going down. So you have to be prepared at all times. I've taken on a role that's comfortable for me. I've realized I don't feel comfortable protesting some of the preachers. Some of the preachers are newcomers to Canada.
Unless it's a dance circle, then Doug.
Yeah, then that's just it, and that works different. But some of the new preachers are newcomers to Canada, and I have spent my adult life working on the language for newcomers to Canada and giving them voice. And so I've had this weird, strange going, I'm pushing down their speech. And so I don't feel comfortable in ways, but so I found different ways that I can contribute. And Brian, you have found your ways, and Erynn, you found your ways. And we just ask others that if you're interested in coming down to Pride Corner on Whyte, find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, Instagram, find out more information. Fridays, beginning around 4:30, we begin. We used to go for however long we want, but we are trying to narrow it down a little bit because Whyte Avenue can be dangerous after a certain point of time. It's getting cold. So dress warmly when you come down. I still have to believe that because I'm still thinking that my fat will comfort me, but then I hit a certain point of the night where I'm chilled to the bone. So Mama Erynn is telling us to wear better clothes, and that I will. So for both of you, what does Pride Corner on Whyte mean to you?
I'm waiting for Brian.
I'm going to let you go first.
When you had asked this question to Claire and Erica, the one word, if I could sum it up in one, which might be a cliche word, it is going to be community. Again, to reference this youth, they were unhoused at the time and they rolled around the corner and they went, these are my people. Like, these are my people. So to be able to just have a space where we can all come together, people who are under the rainbow, allies of people who are under the rainbow, support in numbers, right? We need all the people there to be able to fight not only the hatred here, but hatred across the world, right? So, if you're worried about coming down or think that you don't belong, or, even myself as an ally, I'm like, where do I fit into this puzzle piece of of Pride Corner? But there's a place for everybody, right? You don't have to fit a certain mold. The community that is here is with open arms, and we want you to be a part of it.
Yeah. Brian?
Just add on to that, finding your chosen family at Pride Corner.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing all the youths who are making friends and all that, they're finding their chosen family. Also, just want to give a thank to whoever nominated us for a certain award that we won, and that everyone on Pride Corner, whoever comes and protests, hangs out, it's all because of you. You are part of it, of the Rarican Now Stonewall Keeping Us Safe Award.
We didn't know we were nominated for the award, and then we heard that we had won this award, a Rarica Now Stonewall Award. Just, we're not out there to receive awards, but it was a great boost of energy to be recognized that we're doing something good, and to have somebody on the outside looking in recognize that. It was so nice.
When we won that award, I just want to say it warmed my heart, Doug, when you did your speech. And a lot of people may not understand the value in the word or the person that was the Stonewall. And when you had asked the youth, and I looked across, and almost unanimously, they all shook their heads yes. I mean, myself, I wasn't aware of what Stonewall represented until Pride Parade a couple of years ago, when it was barricaded and stopped from happening. And then you begin to look into the history of why we actually have Pride and Pride parades and are out and proud. So to see the youth of the future know that history was just such a valid moment to really warmed my heart.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was actually stunned just that it was near unanimous.
I was expecting them to shake their head no, and for us to go into a little history lesson. Yeah,
I was ready for it. Yeah, absolutely. I was ready for it. As people know that I'll just, tell me to speak and I'll think of something on that spot. But, Stonewall means a lot. It's where we fought back. And in a future episode of Tales of the LGBTQ+, I'm building towards this where I get to talk to somebody who led our community North America wide before Stonewall. And when you look in the history books, his name is there. I'm building towards that simply because I'm not an interviewer by trade, as people know from listening to Tales of the LGBTQ+. So I'm building towards the confidence of having that conversation with him because our elders, the people who came before us who fought, they mean everything. And so to be recognized in the same vein a little bit, just amazing. Brian, Erynn, I'm going to speak on behalf of Claire and Erica. We are so thankful that you've both joined us with this journey. I didn't mean to do this more than past the month of June, and it was more just because I have some organization skills that can help Claire focus a little bit.
We know we need Claire to focus.
Yes, and that's what Erynn's great for, because she can help that way. And we say that lovingly. But what's over there? What's over there?
I just want to try to keep her car organized.
Oh, that car. And all the rainbow bags of clothes that she has in there. Again, we say this lovingly. Yeah, it's just fantastic that both of you been brought on, because you're jigsaw pieces that have been fit into this puzzle that is Pride Corner on Whyte, and it fits so perfectly. And for all of us not being activists, we're relying on each other to figure things out, and I couldn't think of a better team. Erynn, don't tell Brian, but I appreciate everything he's done. And
I want
you
your
as well.
secret safe with me.
Thank you.
I
just want some tears from Brian. That's all. So we're gonna end this.
He'll get it when the Leafs lose.
Oh, so
I don't cry with that. I'm used to it.
Yeah, every day for Brian. So we're gonna come back in the future and talk more about Pride Corner on Whyte. Hopefully be able to have more specific conversations when it comes to the group, perhaps even some street preachers themselves. We're always open to ideas and thoughts when it comes to this podcast. So we're going to
live on location, Pride Corner.
Yes, I would love to do that, but my Pride music lists are always plugged in, so I can't. So I need somebody to plug in the music so I'm able to do some stuff down there, but that will come in the future. No problems there. So everyone, on behalf of Erica, Claire, Brian, and Erynn, my name is Douglas Parsons. You've been listening to Tales of the LGBTQ+. Thank you for listening. Hit subscribe, leave a comment, shout us out. It's all good. We appreciate you listening. There are more episodes to come. Matt Phillips from Northern Chicken is going to be upcoming, as well as an interview with Liz Messiah, who is an icon within the community, a strong woman who has helped build us from many years ago. So I'm looking forward to those conversations that will be coming up in the month of November, plus many more. Thank you, everyone, for listening, reminding you to be good and always text when you get home. Until next time, everybody.